Do your head get better? Your head? I know. I was in the back of the room for a while. I just had to go and check some messages that came in, but I saw Brian next to you. It was funny.
I'll look at it.
Just too funny. Oh, that thing is plastic too. Oh, oh. Okay, we better get started. Raul's not here, but I know. Raul said he was going to try to come back, but.
What?
Is it okay if we do our own introductions real quick so we can get started since we're running behind? Okay, thanks. Hello, how's everyone?
So,
Excellent, excellent. So my name is Anna Thompson. I'm a learning and access designer at Washington, from somewhere in the north, University of Washington, Bothell.
yeah. We've got
And this is my colleague, Salem Levesque. Information for the presentation, and we're sharing the materials at tinyurl.com/NorthwestMet Web Access, spelled out WMet, so WMET, lowercase, capital W, lowercase EB, capital A, CCESS. And our contact information is there as well. So you can also use the QR code if you like. So, wouldn't it be great if we lived in a world that everything was universally accessible? Whether you went to your computer to go look at a web page, whether you're using, some tool, some device, you're looking at things in your phone, whether you're getting materials for a class, for training, whatever it was, it didn't matter. If you wanted an audio format, you could either have it as audio or convert it easily to audio. Perhaps you want it to be read to you so you can be doing something else. I tend to listen to lynda.com tutorials when I'm driving, but it's because I'm kind of crazy that way. but wouldn't it be great that no accommodations were needed for anyone? So there you go. So our current model that we use at all of our higher learning institutions, we have, it's well embedded. We have great offices, do amazing work, and they provide student accommodations. And there's accommodations also provided for faculty and staff, right? The thing is, for students specifically, not all students register on campus and say, I have a disability, I need help. And so we have a failure rate on those students because they may get disoriented, they get discouraged because they're not doing well. But it's not necessarily because they're not trying, it's because they're not getting that extra help they need. And sometimes it's because they're afraid. They may be singled out. It may be embarrassing, right? So for whatever reason, we don't have the full population to help available to us because we don't know. And so many disabilities are not visible to the naked eye. So some common types of accommodations that we do is extended time for testing, which is, we work with a lot of instructors. Say, hey, I need an accommodation, and this student needs time and a half. They need 2 times as much, whatever. Sometimes it's a note taker. Sometimes they need special seating. Perhaps they need the lectures recorded so they can listen to it later because they have trouble comprehending. Perhaps sometimes it's not necessarily
in this transition.
Level of ability. It could be an international student, right? And it would be beneficial for them to listen to it again. And perhaps those lectures being captioned so they can read the words that they hear. Order, there's a very common order in the type of accommodations provided. So the most common one is the extended time on testing. So in benefits of accessibility and universal design for learning, imagine that if we didn't have to provide any accommodations, I'm not saying we should eliminate it right now because it's a great, great thing that we have to offer. But if we didn't, because let's say everything was accessible, you know how many millions we would save? And we could apply that money for other better things for innovation to make teaching and learning better. I mean, it's just, and then only that, providing a uniform experience for all of our students. And then in terms of universal design, is everyone here familiar with universal design? Okay, excellent. So, so the three basic principles. We will support better diverse learning preferences. Also, we would allow our students to have more exposure to tools and experiences in a better way, right? And also we promote more self-assessment and reflection. And that's just to name a few. So practicing both of those would be great. So one of the ways we can do that is by applying the principles from WCAG 2.0 in creating accessible web content. Are you guys familiar with WCAG 2.0? Okay, very cool, excellent, excellent. So the current version 2.0, it came out to replace the 1999 1.0 version. It's a collection of recommendations to making content available. By the way, there's a version 2.1 in progress that was made available in January of this year, but it's not official because it's not completed yet. So the WCAG 2.0 has what's called layers of guidance, and this is how it's organized. It has 4 basic principles, and their content must be perceivable, operable, understandable, and robust. Okay? Under each principle, we have 12 guidelines, which provides the basic goals that we need to work toward. And the goals come in 3 different levels, A, 2A, and 3A. A is like the absolute basic and baseline level. AA is like middle of the road, and it's just, it's like coming like, having the middle of the ground, where it's pretty accessible. And then we have the 3A, which is like way up here. Pie in the sky. It's awesome if we get there, but if we go to 2A, we'll be great. And we'll be able to have our content made.
This level.
Also, within these guidelines, the success criteria, we have testable success information that helps us know if we were successful or not in applying this criteria. And also there's some techniques that let us know if this is a sufficient technique to address this specific principle or criteria. And sufficient is okay, we're good. But then there's also an advisory type, which is way up above, if we can go up to that level. Kind of like AAA. Okay, any questions so far?
Learning goals. This is really important.
Okay, excellent, thank you. There are the 4 standards, and we're gonna go into each one, Salem and I. And Salem will talk about perceivable.
So we're gonna start off with perceivable. And I'm gonna go over some of the requirements within perceivable. And first off is the general guidelines for websites and images. So why have an image in the first place? Many websites you go to, they have an image of somebody looking happy, but it really doesn't relate to the content. For many users, especially people that use screen readers, those images are often not alt tagged. You guys all know what alt tagging is, right? I'm assuming everybody does. Or they have a alt tag that doesn't really make sense or add to the user's experience or get them to the point that they need, especially if it's an information-based website. So what you can do is you can do a double quotation mark, correct? Mm-hmm. Yes, double quotation mark, so screen readers will skip over the image. So if it's basically somebody smiling and being happy, but it's a website on registration, you might not necessarily need it, although there are points to need it. You can use the double quotation marks to skip over the image. If you do have an image with somebody smiling and being happy and it relates to the content, describing them, describing their emotion, the place they're sitting, if they're sitting in the UW, our campus library, that would be saying student happily sitting in the library, or you could even put it underneath as some subtext. And then also any symbols. So many of the symbols that we see in our everyday, we know, but if somebody's using a screen reader or a braille reader, they might not know what it is, and if it does relate to the conversation, it's really important to describe those in as much detail and add a URL to what the symbol is attached to. Specifically, if it's, say, a computer program and you have talking about Adobe, for instance, Adobe Photoshop, and you have a picture of the Adobe icon, putting that there with a link would absolutely help the student and any other students that see that website. They can go directly to that main web page of the software that the campus uses. And then also, a lot of pet peeves as well. How many of you have seen those auto-playing videos on CNN and many other websites, and your volume is always turned up a little bit too loud when you go to those websites and it just blasts in your ears? Making sure you don't have autoplay, making sure that you don't have music when somebody's talking, especially in videos for your institution. It can be very distracting. I have not seen it done successfully, and I've worked media for many years. Sometimes soft, classical works really well, but generally having somebody talking and having music in the background just can cause some people either headaches or just frustration. Plus, it doesn't really focus on the content that much. Make sure that you have the ability to pause the audio or quiet the audio, especially if captioning, or a volume slider. Many websites don't have those. Many websites do, thankfully, like YouTube and many other, like Vimeo, where people house videos. They all have those. But sometimes websites will have just a video playing that you can't mute or change any of the audio. And then also make sure that your online images are to the point and adaptable. I'll go over that a little bit later. Next one is use of color. There are many really awesome web checkers. This one is, if you click on the image, this will take you to this one. It tells you the contrast of your image, of your text. The color contrast analyzer, oops, what happened? Right here will also tell you the color contrast of your images. One thing a lot of people do is they put text inside their images. And when you have that and a lot of color around the text, it can be really hard to read for people, especially if you have color blindness. Or within here, the background of the text, the background of your website, and then the text color you choose, many people might not have the ability to read that. And you can see my bright orange background and light orange text failed the luminosity contrast ratio right down here. And then also avoid color on text as a sole means to communicate. Probably all remember AOL Instant Messenger and how people would modify their text to 50,000 different shades of purple. I didn't know that there were that many, but then they would put it in a text box and send it to me, and it just cost, it was very, very hard to read. Unfortunately, we're still doing that. We're still doing that on websites. We don't check the background of our school website, and we'll use different colors of text. Thankfully, many campuses are turning these features off where you can change the text color, but if you're using color, make sure it has a reason. That's the most important thing. All right. Next is captioning and transcripts. One of the things that we do on our campus is we have a lot of online videos being produced for our cybersecurity program. And those online videos are often full of big words and also long. They can be very long because we get a whole lot of footage and then it's edited down. One of the things we found that works really well is YouTube captioning. To put the video up on YouTube, make the video private because you don't want to publish it uncaptioned, so you just make it a private video. You can then download that captioning, and it gives you basically, is it an SRT? I think it's an SRT. You can download an SRT or VTT file, and then go through it. One of the worst things, if you go to any YouTube video and you look at the captioning, the auto captioning, unfortunately, it's both a blessing and a curse. People are using that captioning, and it is full of errors. So it's relaying bad information. If you download these files, you can go into any text editor, make the changes, correct all the wrong words, and it will find wrong words, and it will put offensive words if they think that's the word. So you always want to go through it, and then you can re-upload that text, and it will make all the changes. And the great thing about it is it has a timestamp when you download the YouTube SRT, VTT files. Yes?
Specifically on this, many people do prefer the YouTube editor because it's really easy to use. It's come a long ways. Back in 2010, it was horrible. And not only that, by the time we get instructions figured out, it would change. So it has gone a long ways, and it's really easy to use. So if you don't want to deal with bringing that and making that content a little confusing to look at and so forth, with the timings and everything in the text editor, it can always be edited right on YouTube. And then if you need the files as a backup, perhaps the video's going to go elsewhere, and you wanted the already time-stamped, well-formatted file, you can always download it from there and then reuse it somewhere else. And the link up there is the digital Bothell process that I created that we use. And can you open that real quick? I'll go through super fast. And this is just our version of it, you know, for this specific process. But we have a whole workflow on how we process those videos that Stellan was talking about. So, and we have a couple of levels of QA checks for it as well. So we go through all of that, including, you know, even editing in YouTube. In this specific one, we do send our videos to 3Play Media to be captioned because we're using a grant right now, and it's free. So because we're using that, that's reflected in here. So this is the transcription. Could you scroll down a little bit? Attached to this, let's see, where's the next link? Oh, there it is. We also put together a transcript workflow process. And all this is available in that folder that we shared, where the presentation is. And so here are specific instructions if you know, for editing, an example of an app, a free app on a Mac or a free app on a PC that you can use. I would never recommend Notepad because it's horrible, and it does a lot of window-ish things that I don't like. So anyway, but then I also came up with a couple of little codes to do some bulk fixing. If you want to produce a transcript of those files, you can use those two little regular expressions. Are you guys familiar with regular expressions? It's just mini code. The instructions are right there if you want to test it out. It works in those two text editors. But basically, you enter and it bulk removes all the timings. The first one. The second one, when you enter it, it removes all of the extra empty lines, and it adds a space. Well, actually, you replace it with space, but so that way you end up with a block of text instead. So.
Come on, where's my full screen? There you go. All right. And one thing I also wanted to say as an educator and a staff member who works with multiple faculty, I've asked multiple media faculty if they or make it a requirement in their assignments for videos to have captioning, and not one faculty member said that they do that. And that kind of concerned me a little. Concerned me a lot, actually, because they showed these videos that their students produce online. They show them at conferences like this. Even a faculty member that I worked with, we went to a conference, I think it was EDUCAUSE, and not having those videos captioned really pushes out part of the audience, and the students are producing those videos generally for an audience. Or for us, public health advocacy, they were producing them for these individual groups, or i.e. the American Lung Association and other groups like that. And not one of the videos was captioned, and that started to really bug me. So when you're working with faculty, asking faculty to see if they could put that as some point in their assignment, that would make a huge difference for a lot of the audience. And we as staff or as faculty have the opportunity and kind of pretty much a requirement to train these students to use captioning and make it part of the video process by using YouTube and other captioning programs that do it automatically. It makes it that much easier to have the students do it. All right. The next one is representation. And how many of you were in the last one in this room? Yeah. So she talked a little bit about this when she was going over, but I used a program called Natural Reader, and it's a text-to-speech program that will create MP3s. During grad school, when I had 8, 9 papers to read every day, what I would do is I would use a thing like Natural Reader, turn them to MP3s and listen to them on the bus. And you can listen to them 4x speed, and it works really, really well. But one of the things we need to do is create different means for students to learn with the same content. So, for example, if you were to put up a document and have a MP3 that students could download, relatively easy. It took 2 seconds to create an MP3. Have a non-PDF text document for screen readers, because screen readers don't do very well with PDFs. They have problems around double columns. They have problems around images. And try to find different ways that you can make your media or your documents more accessible. And then also, when the students are learning, if you're using really uncommon words or acronyms, it's important to describe those. Again, just like I said before, have external links, definitions. And what we can do is there are programs like Grammarly that works really well, that you will actually define the words. As students, if they go to the document, they can actually get the definition of the word. And it works really well, and a lot of web browsers are actually building these features in as well. And I'll pass it back over to Anna.
Thank you. Okay. So next one is operable. I want to make a quick mention real quick. We have a campaign going on our campus to try to, my dream is to eradicate PDFs. To that end, we become such a population that we have what I call a knee-jerk reaction of creating PDFs. They are well established in the market. They created a format that's easy to use, easy to download. It will print how you expect it to print, right? And it's really hard to get away from that. But because of that, we have too many PDFs that are part of class content, or it could be there or some other content, but it's image only because they were scanned. Perhaps the content's no longer available, and that's the only copy that remains. So the thing about PDFs, they can be made accessible, but it takes a lot of work. I run currently PDF remediation sessions once or twice a week on our campus. Sometimes it's just once a week with different agents on campus, and they're called liaisons from different departments that are learning to create either, if they want to create a PDF, there needs to be a PDF, which is the first question I always ask is, does this need to be a PDF? Okay, this is what you need to do. Or even, let them know that there are other ways to share content that are even better and more accessible from the get-go.
Those are
Okay.
We recommend text files and RTF files.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely, because plain text, we can open everything. RTF, you can open them with any Word editor, and any more, even Word documents. You can have easy access to Word through the free 365 accounts. You cannot download or edit locally or in a mobile device, but you can do it online. So we don't have that deterrent anymore, that block. So, thanks, Daniel. Okay, so interoperable. Content that is put on the web, you should be able to navigate the keyboard, whether it's from an LMS, whether it's just directly, on a website via browser. And most applications anymore, they have the information with keyboard shortcuts that people can use. Unfortunately, they're not consistent. So it's difficult, and sometimes you have to memorize specific ones for a specific tool that you're using. Fortunately, things like, Control-C, Control-V, Control-X, all those, or whether, or in a Mac, the equivalent in a Mac, those at least are very common. One cool example I found in the Canvas LMS, which is what we use, is anytime you are in any screen in Canvas, if you press the comma key, if there are any keyboard shortcuts on that page, it gives you a little window with them. But here are links on the presentation for all these different tools, specific tools. Okay, content. It's another area. So as Stella mentioned, should be able to content, okay? And should be able to even skip it, if necessary, or pause it. University of Washington created a player called Able Player. It's available on GitHub, easily shareable, and available to everyone who
Generally,
uses it. And it also has controls for speeding up or slowing down the video, as well as the ability to take in audio description files. You guys know what audio description files are? Okay, excellent. Then again, with that type of content, there is some content that may cause epileptic episodes. There are some people who have something that's called epileptic photosensitivity, and it's about, approximately 3% of the population from the latest data from the CDC. And those can be caused when you have more than 3 flashes per second in content. You have to be very, very, very careful with that. There are many places working on solutions for those things. University of Maryland came up with a tool called PEAT, Photosensitive Epilepsy Analysis Tool. There is freely available. Anyone who wants to download it, they can check their content for flashes. Okay? But in general, even with using that, if you go 3
around and he'll like
second or no flashes at all, then you'll be okay. Okay? So do you want to, we have a little example here. You want to tell us about it?
So I have a friend who was doing something online, and he discovered a website with an animated GIF. Pretty benign animated GIF, and I was talking to him over the phone, and he went into epileptic shock. And it was quite awkward, listening to the ambulance come in, his family, and all of this. So I really feel that not a lot of is paid attention to of this. And also there was a journalist who he was well known to have epileptic seizures. If flashing objects, people are actually actively sending him things that would spark an episode on his Twitter. And one individual got arrested and put in jail for trying to do that, trying to hurt this person by sending these things online. So it's really our responsibility as staff and faculty to find a way to make sure we're not using this, because it could be the most benign thing, and we have it. I even noticed that flashing light out there on one of those tables, the little blue flashing light. That can really spark it. And so he was into video games, and I found this website. I guess they remade the Super Nintendo. Did any of you have that one back in the day? Some of you guys did. So this was found by me just looking and researching on epileptic fit websites. And unfortunately, do any of you have close your eyes if any of you have an issue, because I want to show you guys this website that could potentially spark it. This company is in Seattle. I contacted them and let them know, and they never did anything. But potentially this could open them up to lawsuits. So this is a warning. If you do have sensitivity, this gives me a headache if you don't want a headache. But this is kind of the idea of things that are seen that people might have an issue with. And I'll scroll down very slowly. So they recreated the Super Nintendo, completely remade it, and then on their second panel, without knowing, they have this going. Pretty bad. I know why they did it. They say it was an artistic reason, but again, as anything that goes on our website, you can't have stuff like that. It can't have flashing lights, and it can't have flashing colors. So.
Okay, great. So, right.
It's really bad. No.
Exactly. Right. I mean, it's just, and some people, perhaps they weren't born with it. Some people get this sensitivity like this one, or very similar, even, to the point you can just get a headache, which is uncomfortable, right? Perhaps because of an accident, or an eye disease or something like that, a neural disease that came after, maybe when you were older. I want to make a quick note.
Sorry.
Well, we're not addressing every single principle because there are 12 under each. I would have taken a long time. So some of the ones that we found are pretty important.
Impact.
That we're addressing those at a 2A level.
We see
Washington to achieve. We have a policy called Policy 188 that was signed into action in 2006 for all state agencies. Okay, so the next one is navigation. So these are some of the main points of navigation. So you should be able to have the ability to bypass repeated content, right, not be tied to it. All titles should be descriptive, which is, it's pretty logical, right? It should be, it's common sense. But sometimes it's not practice. Actually, also, things should follow a sequential order for the focus. You should be able to see where the mouse is all the time. And also, it should have a logical order. And there's code and things to make that happen if it's very complex content. Also, all links should be descriptive. Instead of putting the full URL on the content, and this includes emails in any type of content that we create. We should put what the link goes to, what the link is about, the meaning of the link, and then put the URL behind it. One really, really super cool thing about Canvas that I love is that when I tell instructors, like, hey, let's do this in Canvas, put it on a Canvas page, it's a web page. You know, it's going to be amazing. And so they say, wait a minute, I need to put the full link, because if students print this, they're not going to have the link. But Canvas automatically, if you print it, they put what was the meaning of the link and the link next to it or below. So it's very, very, very cool. There should be different ways, multiple ways to access content, which follows universal design principles. Also, your headings. And this is part of best practices for writing, right? They should be sequential, they should be consistent, they should be meaningful. Should tell what the sections are about. And again, the focus should be visible. And when I was looking, because I wanted to link these things, most of the links go to the WCAG website for here. But I found two that came up in my searches. The first one, the bypass repeated content descriptive links from here, from OSU. And they are excellent. So I wanted to link those instead, those pages. They're very, very well done. Thanks. Okay, so, and in checking with navigation, so if you want to check it out, we have, there is an initiative called romouse.org started by the DeWitt Center and the ATC Center in University of Washington, and that where you can go through a bunch of different tests and see if you can navigate a site with just a keyboard. It's very cool. And this was featured in 2015 to celebrate Global Accessibility Awareness Day, which we've been celebrating every year. As a matter of fact, we're going to be celebrating in our campus, and we instead of having a one-day event, because Seattle has the day of, usually a Thursday, May 17th this year, we're celebrating the Wednesday before and the Friday after. And ours is called GA instead of God. Global Accessibility Awareness Week.
And they have cool stickers too, especially working in technology. You just have the no mouse.
Yeah, you can
People are,
they
they think you're a Luddite, and you're like, yeah, pretty much. But
have stickers, they have t-shirts that you can request. All right, cool. So let's go to understandable.
all right. And because I talked about a lot of this, I'm going to change it up a little bit. Readable, you all know about using headers for different emphasizing points in a document. Again, not using acronyms, unusual words. If you have to, clearly identifying them and linking to the websites. Making sure your content is predictable, navigation. You don't want your users searching all over the place to get to one thing. It is both a waste of their time, and it's a lot of content you can save and you don't have to work with. If they're going for one thing and you have a website that has one thing, give it a clear title and then get directly to the point of the content. Input assistance. So does anybody know what input assistance is? So what input assistance is you know those web forms when you write something, specifically email addresses, and then it tells you no, you don't put the @ whatever.com or .net. Input assistance shows right by the little field what you're supposed to do. So if you put in your email address wrong and it knows it's a fake or just a na@na.com, it will say, please put in an actual email address. Guiding users like that, it really helps. Labels, clear labels for different things. I need your phone number in this format. So starting with this, no dashes, all that really helps. The ability to fix errors, especially on important documents, giving students the ability to preview their work. And I know different kinds of, not LMS, no, not LMS, what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know what you're thinking.
Like WordPress, what is WordPress?
Oh.
CMS, that's the one I was looking for. Too many acronyms. All right, so CMSs, some allow this, some don't. And also for help text, giving students a number that they can reach you at, or staff and faculty, that really helps, because then they can give you a call if something's going wrong.
And I'm going to touch a little bit into that in a minute. So.
Yeah. Is it broken? Oh, I'm done.
Oh, you're done. Okay, go on.
Okay.
Okay, so we're going to talk about robustness now. And this is more technical because it has more to do with behind the web pages. So if you are coding in any way, or if you have access to the HTML, there are certain things that you can learn how to fix and not necessarily have to be a web programmer. So we use HTML, we use CMS for the different styles, right? There's ARIA, which is Accessible Reach-Generated Applications. It goes on top of HTML or within HTML. It's basically where HTML falls short, ARIA steps in to be able to label things correctly, whether it's a menu, whether it's, top content, whether it's a footer, things like that. So it can be identified to screen reader. And this became an official recommendation in 2014 to use ARIA. So it basically says, tells a screen reader what the content is, what this thing is, how do I use it, is it on, select, expand, is it collapsed, right? What just happened? If you can't see, something happened, you can't see it, it needs to be announced for someone so they know what's going on. And it is part of HTML5. Okay? So, as part of coding, okay? So any type of coding, which makes perfect sense, is logical. You create HTML tags and use them, they should close. It won't work right. You're going to have errors, right? So you, at the same time, you also should avoid duplicates. And that's with any content, not just HTML content. There should be a unique identifiers. Unique identifiers, there should be a unique ID for things, for everything. Because if you have repeat IDs, sometimes something can be identified as a menu here, and this is called menu, or menu 2, and someone who doesn't know is like, okay, which menu is this? Okay. Main menu, subpage menu, something more to identify what it is. Okay, so as part of also coding, should use standard controls, and if you need custom work, which happens and sometimes is necessary, they should all be interfaced with additional access technologies so they can be recognized, whether you're using ARIA or using some more complex coding to make sure that the screen reader can read what's going on the page. Also, code commenting. And this is best practice for any programmer. Explain what's going on so someone else comes after so they can know what's going on and they can fix it or they can edit it, upgrade it, whatever, without having to refigure it out. Okay, so we mentioned previously alternate text. So always, if you're doing the background and there are elements on the page, for example, form fields or things like that, there's an ARIA tag called label by for objects that is used for that. And also another good principle and practice is combining text and images in one resource. For example, you have a home page and you have an icon for home, little house usually, and you have the word home. They're separate because you want to keep the text separate, right? And perhaps and if you do it that way, you perhaps don't need to have alt text for this little house for the icon because you already have the text link, right? But in terms of navigation, you need if it's grouped, then a person doesn't have to go through an icon, skip or not, and then this, but they're all together into one. So they can be included within the same like a tag that closes both of them. That's basically what that means. So also applets are super cool in Java, and they run really well, but they should always build text alternative. Okay, and this follows again Universal Design for Learning, offer content in multiple formats for people, any user. Also the CAPTCHA sensory, because we see CAPTCHA that the only option perhaps is looking at an image. Those are very popular, and they're effective in preventing spam. But if you can't see the image and you don't have an audio option, then you won't be able to fill it in. Like example, the registration for this conference, right? If you needed a different option than having, you won't be able to register unless someone else did it for you. I thought this was really cool. This image is Louis Braille is the creator of the Braille system, and that's his name, Braille, with the little dots. and it's really not as difficult or as complex as it seems, but it is very, very cool to use. But so in this example, it is there's a role telling someone here's a dialog box coming up, right? Or there's another role, alert dialog, where something's like really make sure that the person knows that this is coming up. It's really important, okay, on the element. So when you're doing any type of dialog boxes, the dialog should have an H1, a heading 1 level, because when you do with those, have you seen those dialog boxes? They're called modal boxes usually, no name for them, and they get on front of the page. Anyway, so it becomes almost like a mini page. So therefore you have a new heading structure. So it's to start with heading 1. Does that make sense? So it should start like heading 1 again because you're not dependent on the structure of the page behind it, the way it came from. So, and the focus of the keyboard should be on this element. One thing that's happened when the modal boxes came out initially was that people with screen readers would tab because that's a good way to go from element to element. You tab, 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 and end up tabbing outside the box, and you were back in the page, and the box still open. And that has a lot of problems. So, but that can be resolved by having the correct programming behind that. So it means they need to be created so you have to lock the user until they click on the little X or the little close link, something like that. So you cannot tab out of it. So could you click on the dialog example, please? Okay. So here's an example from the WCAG page. So click on add delivery address. Okay, so it's an example from, we're going to start tabbing. Tab. Yeah. Keep going. Keep going. Again. Look what happened, went back to street. So it locked the user within the modal box. That's how it should work. Okay, can you close that, please? There you go. Okay, yeah, we're almost at the end. Okay, cool. So that was the last example. And within the folder that we shared, there's a little box of code, sample code. It usually comes with some JavaScript, the HTML, and CSS. So if you are interested, it's available. And so here's some additional resources that we have, including that OSU amazing web accessibility page that they have posted, because you guys got to check it out. It's very, very well done. So, do you guys have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, I really appreciate what you guys are talking about with YouTube content, especially if I understood right, student assignments, perhaps asking students to caption content. One of the tips that I got from a conference a while ago was if you search for YouTube content, if you put a comma CC after your keyword, it will search for only human captioned media. So it's always a great tip to share for those that don't know. Keyword, comma, CC, when you're searching for YouTube content.
Great, thank you. Yes, that's very good.
Another question. So I always wonder when I'm formatting lists, ordered or unordered lists, do I need to put a period at the end for accessibility for lists?
No, for accessibility. You might do it for grammatical reasons.
Okay.
And then the writing style, whatever the site is, whether it's more formal or informal, that's my opinion. But not for accessibility. Though.
Okay.
Yes.
So from a faculty professional development point of view regarding accessibility, what does your office do in terms of do you train faculty to take care of the accessibility needs themselves, or do you, the option is that your office kind of acts like an auditor of their content, and do you fix it for them?
Very good question. So, we do not have active legal auditing system. Okay. So when we started our initiative is UDAL, Universal Design for Active Learning. It has a heavy emphasis on accessibility, physical spaces, as well as universal design for learning. What we began is sharing a lot of content, and also within our site, but also as we do workshops, as we meet with faculty, we're integrating principles in there. Okay, So what we're doing is saying, oh, and we need to make this accessible. Instead of that, it's like, okay, for this you should always use a heading. Remember how you write your reports or you write an article, you have to use the heading for, APA format, and, similarly. And your content's going to be consistent, it's going to look good, and then it's also going to be accessible. So we're doing a lot of integration that way. When it comes specifically to accessibility, sometimes we may have an instructor, and it's not very often, and say, hey, I want to make sure that this is accessible. And if it's a PDF, I am usually the remediator, unless they want, we have a third-party vendor, but it's about $9.70 per page average. And that if it's not a complex page, which means it's not a form or something with a lot of content in it. And the company that we're using on Asvaste. In terms of some sort of auditing, we have cohorts of faculty that they go through for hybrid learning, and we have some, we'll be having some for online learning, which they get paid a stipend, and they go through a QM, Quality Matters, training, and as part of that, it has a strong section on accessibility, so we address some of that there. And they have to pass the checks to be able to get paid a stipend, so they can teach their course. Well, they can still teach their course, but they don't get paid if they don't pass. But we're working on processes so we can be better implemented. We've been doing a lot of changes in our faculty training, looking at different ways to meet where faculty are. We're having a lot of trainings via Zoom. We're having a lot of trainings on the web. We also came up with, and this is actually Todd's idea, our co-worker is not here, 5-day Canvas course, 20 minutes a day for 5 days. And we based it on simple topics and subtopics. The last one was on accessibility. And we had like 35 participants on that one.
Another one follow-up. Since you have, because I know you have a good handle on Blackboard, Canvas, and Moodle, which would you think is, of the three, the easier to do accessibility features, like put in accessibility features, comparing the three of them?
That's three?
Yeah.
Well, I would love to say Moodle,
Yeah.
but Moodle has a little ways to go. They're getting much better. Because Moodle's still close to my heart. Blackboard used to be difficult, but they have made a lot of changes and they have gotten a lot better. I know, right? It's the Blackboard.
Yeah.
So Ali is a great tool if you can afford it. That's the thing, if you can afford it. So out of the three, I think Canvas is number one. And Canvas, without the Ali tool, it has a little built-in accessibility. That's some basic stuff, but it also has the option when you're uploading an image in a Canvas course, it gives you immediately the option to add a alt text or mark it as a different image. Yeah, so, yes.
So when it comes to captioning, I think YouTube will make it a lot easier for faculty to start creating and adding their own captioning. But getting the words on the screen isn't everything, because I've seen bad captioning where it flashes, it's on the screen, but only for a half of a second, or it cuts in funny places. Do you have a recommendation for good practices of making good captions?
Yes, absolutely. There are some great practices online, and I don't recall any on the top of my head right now. However, some of the basics are maximum 2 lines per caption. Okay? Check punctuation, capitalization, spelling, because sometimes they can be detractors. You're offering that, but if it detracts, it's not that great. So, also, when you're looking at timing, and this is something that YouTube has done really great in the little editor, and you're watching and you're editing over here, and you're playing, and then you have also below, you have your sound waves where the sound is for the captions as they're happening. You can listen, and then you read, okay, and then sometimes because the wave is done, it usually cuts off in weird places, right? So you can do a couple of things. You can guesstimate and add another little caption by clicking on the plus, and add another line and separate it so you have complete meaning. Not necessarily complete sentences, but that works too. But as long as you communicate whole ideas, right? So things stay together for meaning. You can also go over here below where your sound waves are, your little thing, and you can put your mouse over the caption, and then you'll see that it's going to have a couple blue handles on each side, and you can drag that over like that, like, and then you can drag the other one over, and then you can move the words. So you can grab some words from here, put it down below, and then drag it without having to be technical about, okay, so like 2/10 of a second or 5/10 of a second, we need to add, remove, but if you do the dragging with that can fix that.
Well, and how long should the words stay on the screen? I mean, it definitely depends on how many words you have.
Correct, correct. I mean, so a good practice is the word should stay, like a second, maybe two. Even if you have a long pause, you don't want the word to stay, right? But they should stay in case you have someone who reads slower. So you have a second or a couple of seconds to shut. It's pretty good practice.
Well, I would say that's why it's important to have the option to pause and resume the audio, so if somebody needs to pause it so they can read it.
Mhm.
Then
Yes.
then they have that, 'cause otherwise it's annoying to just go back and forth.
One thing a lot of people don't know is if you do audio recordings of any sort, I know that transcripts are generally needed, or if your lecture capture system doesn't do automatic transcription. I know Panopto does, but it's not great, and many of them don't. What you can do is take those videos, or you could drop a sound wave, say from an audio recording, drop it into an iMovie or Premiere or Final Cut, push it out as a video, and then upload it, and you'll get the full transcripts without the need of any video altogether. So that's an easier, quick way to transcribe.
Also, anyone here using Panopto by any chance? Okay, never mind then. No, but are you guys interested in those best practices for transcripts? Because if you are, to the resources we share, I can add a page with some links in there.
Yeah.
Okay.
He had a, did you have a question?
Yeah, I know we're a little over time. I was just gonna ask what your typical PDF kind of remediation process is, just because it's such a universally popular format. It's really easy for students to like mark up everything. So I don't anticipate at my institution like the recommendation of just like a text file to be very popular option. So like beyond just like OCRing the text, what other kind of difficulties do you typically see?
Okay, number one, if people have, if it's a scan, then you
Yeah.
have to go in manually, of course. But if you have the source file, fix the things on the source file, headings, alt text, and stuff, and then make sure that when it's saved as a PDF, the accessibility tags are marked as an option. So they transfer to Adobe, and that's in the little options box when you do the save as dialog.
Okay,
From
so
Word, for example.
it's manually like tagging like the format.
So if the tags are transferred, then you'll have them. If you're doing it manually, then you'll have to go through a whole process of manually tagging. And that would be a whole at least 90-minute presentation,
Sure.
just that alone. But documents for that, so there's the tagging, you gotta check the reading order and the tab order. When the content reflows, so you flow in the correct order, you're in different devices and such. And also when people tab or read, things don't jump around. Because a lot of times what happens is that like the title gets read last, and then goes to the middle, and so forth. If you can see, that's very confusing.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so there's that. There's also checks for, as part of it. There's an accessibility checker built into Adobe Acrobat Pro or DC. And so running that, it comes up with a report of the things you need to fix.
Okay.
I would recommend lynda.com, creating accessible PDFs. Training, at least in Washington, we have free access to our county libraries. But if you can get access to lynda.com, it's the best training that you can get for that.
What's your bit.ly link again?
Oh, can you go back to
I
oh.
mean,
It was NWMed, lowercase, then I think it was a capital W web and then access with a capital A. I think that's what it was, but let's double check.
how fast can I type it? Alrighty. There it is, right there. You're welcome.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.